may or may not look like it, but we are in New York City, probably the last place you expected to see us next. But here we are on the Governor's Island ferry, headed to Governor's Island.
Hold up, before we dive in too deep, I need to catch you up on exactly how we got here.
Yep, because for those of you that have been following along, then you know it has been almost 3 years since we've been home. We have been dying to see family, and we've done a fair amount of that so far.
But the highlight has been surprising my grandma for her 91st birthday.
What are we doing, guys?
Grandma's 91st birthday.
Surprising Grandma. Thank you.
Oh
Hi, Grandma.
Oh my goodness. You handsome boy. Where's the pretty lady?
She's down there filming.
Wonderful.
So there we are, hanging out with family, and we get this last-minute invitation from YouTube to go to New York City to attend the first ever Creators for Climate Action Summit. And we didn't really know much about it. There wasn't really a whole lot of information, but typically we're kind of very remote.
Yeah, we're like off on an island, and if we ever get some sort of invite to collaborate with anybody, we're like, yeah, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's gonna be hard for us to get to you.
Yeah.
But this time it's like, perfect. We're in Arkansas. We're just a hop, skip, and a jump from New York. We'll be there. Sign us up.
And so we went, and it was really interesting because it was a true summit. As there were like panels and speakers, and it was all about inspiring creators to talk more about climate change and to kind of arm us with some tools and knowledge and how to have those conversations. There were like breakout sessions.
We got to hang out with like all these different YouTubers and communicate about our channels and kind of what we do and what we can do to be better.
Yeah, to, well, inspire action, really. So it was fascinating.
Yeah. Wasn't really that great for filming.
No, because, yeah, I mean,
we
it's
were
a
also
summit.
there to learn, so.
Yeah.
It was in partnership with Global Citizen,
which is an organization dedicated to ending extreme poverty, demanding equity, and defending the planet. And we never really heard of them before the event, but apparently every year they have a big festival. This one was in Central Park in New York City, and it's all about kind of celebrating the accomplishments from the years. There were all these like important speakers giving speeches and entertainment.
The lineup was pretty wild. So
Yeah.
the Jonas Brothers, and then Mariah Carey, and then
us, YouTubers.
And I had the opportunity to connect with these incredible creators at the summit yesterday.
with the grand finale of Metallica.
It was a bit surreal to say the least.
And I would say the most fun that we had was our field trip day, and that like brought us straight back to,
Being
well, I'm
in
not going to
school.
tell you the year.
Yeah.
1992.
We're that old.
Oh
Yes,
man,
we are.
yeah, it made us feel like we were in school again, all hopping on the bus to go have a little adventure.
Yeah, which is where we started this whole thing, headed over to Governor's Island, and we decided to film that portion because it was on the water. We knew it was going to be fascinating. So yeah, back to the ferry.
There's the Statue of Liberty over there.
A nonprofit headquartered here. We have a mission to restore oyster reefs to New York Harbor through education initiatives.
We are going out on the couple boats here in a river, Hudson River, the Billion Oyster Project.
Oh, Mark is coming with us. Okay.
Oh, there you go. Signs of what we're about to see. We're going to be learning a lot about what they're doing with oysters here in the river. And I'm not going to go into too much of that now because that's kind of what the whole day is about. But we are also here with, what would you say, like 20 to 30 of our fellow creators out here, which is a very unique situation for us. And everybody else got put on the big boat because, you know, they wanted people who are comfortable with boats to be on the little boat. So that's us. And we have
Joe Hansen from Be Smart. We got sea legs.
That's right. So we're getting the very private tour today. We're feeling very privileged. And we got the man in charge with us too.
Hi, welcome. I'm Pete.
So much for staying dry. You're not gonna get wet.
So we want to, one, make New York Harbor a more abundant, cleaner, better place, and also turn it into a learning lab for everyone who lives in New York City.
The Billion Oyster Project is an organization that's restoring oyster reefs to New York Harbor. Because once upon a time, New York City was booming with oysters. They were everywhere, sort of like hot dog stands, and they were sold by the millions. Because there were over 220,000 acres of oyster reefs all along the coastline. And the reefs were huge. They acted as a barrier reef, helping to protect the area from storms. Plus, all those oysters kept the waterways clean, because one single oyster can filter up to 50 gallons of water a day. But by 1910, overharvesting and massive water pollution caused the oyster population to dwindle, and soon, the oyster capital of the world was no more. Perfect sailor pose, yeah. Look at you.
So this is a oyster research station site. We have hundreds of these around the city, and it acts as a sort of remote lab for middle school science classes. We've developed a 6th through 8th grade STEM curriculum for New York City middle schools that takes any lesson of the day that can be related to New York Harbor or oyster restoration. We've developed content around that. We go out in the field a few times a year, monitor water quality parameters, oyster growth and survival, and that's all backed up with the instruction in the classroom.
And they can do it from land. They don't have to get on a boat.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Accessible from land.
So accessible.
So some oysters live and some oysters die. Super cool. This is a dead oyster shell, but it's completely filled with eggs. That was a living oyster that lived for 3 years.
So this came from a restaurant, or you seeded it and
seeded it and it grew? Because you can tell because it's whole. It has both sides. But you can imagine being a 10-year-old and never having sort of considered there are animals that live below the surface in New York Harbor.
What's this thing here?
That's a skilled fish. Called that because basically they have a little suction on their stomach and they can sit right in the oyster.
Look at that. That's below their mouth, like the bottom of their bottom jaw.
As if your stomach kind of had a little plunger on it. Yeah.
Release him back into the wild, Joe.
Here we go. Return to your home. I give that dive a 7.
Was it his fault or yours, though?
The judge from Texas is always a tough one. I expected to see like oysters, and it's wild how many species live on oysters. I don't know what any of these are. They're just like slime aliens from the bay. But like every spongy bit of this is another animal that uses this animal as a house. You just like see an ecosystem in your hand. It's just so cool.
So I know that you don't eat these oysters right now. Do you ever anticipate a time where this could also become a food source?
We can start having the conversation about oysters being safe to eat as soon as we stop pouring raw sewage into the harbor. We're lucky that it hasn't rained in a few days, so the harbor is safe to touch, safe to be around. But every time it rains, hundreds of millions of gallons of untreated household wastewater are dumped into the harbor. So here in the greatest city of the world, we're denied access to our most important natural resource because it's contaminated with human waste, which is normally a problem you associate with developing countries.
Yeah.
But we still haven't figured that out. And so that is like full stop, the reason it's not safe to eat the oysters.
Which means like no swimming in here,
no swimming, no kayaking. It's not safe to touch the water after it rains.
That's incredible.
It's really messed up.
It is messed up. So I had to dig a little deeper to find out why that happens.
When it rains, the system overloads. So there are these 460 CSOs, and they are built in by design overflow points where this excess of combined rain and sewage is released into the harbor and waterways like Newtown Creek and the Gowanus Canal. You don't want to touch water that's like this, and that's not the way it's supposed to be.
God, how cool is this?
So there's probably oysters under the water. That's kind of cool. Very heavy.
Mussels, 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 mussels. Mussels? Mussels. Oh, they're stacked in there. Those are good ones.
Yeah,
these
claws in there.
Oh. Claw. Where'd you go?
Got some coral growing there.
Oh, yeah.
There's a big one.
Hello.
All right.
Okay.
That's all those mussels can handle.
My understanding is that this was built as a grain terminal around the same time that the Erie Canal was completed, and the Erie Canal made it so that the grain storage went from New York City to Buffalo, and so all the grain ended up coming down the river on barges instead of coming to New York to be stored here. So this hasn't been used, and I don't know if it was ever really used. It's the future fantasy home for Billion Oyster Project.
Ah,
We just need like $1 billion to fix it.
you heard it here, folks.
That's right.
Future home. Billion Oyster Project.
Donate now.
$5 million. You can have your
Be a
neighbor
really good
outside
use
of
of
this
your
building.
money.
Or haunted house, or paintball tournament.
We operate a shell collection program at about 60 restaurants. The waste shell, instead of going to be landfilled somewhere else, comes out to Governor's Island and spends a year out of the water to make sure any soft tissue or other organisms from other places die, and then package the shell into reef structures, put them in our setting tanks over in Red Hook, and then put them in the water as reef substrate. So what we looked at today is an educational installation. Only has a couple hundred oysters in it, but our large-scale reefs are multi-acre sites with tens of millions of oysters on them, and this is the primary substrate we use to build those reefs.
Look at that view.
Cool cranes, right? So this is our remote setting facility. So what we did is we retrofit shipping containers as oyster tanks, and we painted them with food-grade epoxy paint, added air systems, plumbing systems, heaters, and frames to hold all of our reef structures. And so here we can see two different kinds of reef structures. There's the reef balls, which are those half domes made of cement, and then our gabions, which are these wire boxes. They're designed to be filled with shell and then put in the tanks. Each tank takes 10 million oysters at a time. And 10 million oysters is like the size of a tennis ball.
When they're large.
When they're larvae. They live in the tanks for about a week to 10 days, and then the containers get put right onto a barge, turn the pumps back on to keep everything alive, and then they go to the reef site, slowly take the reef structures out and put them on the bottom. This has allowed us to go from 2 to 5 million oysters per year to 30 to 50 million oysters per year just in the last couple of years. And we're adding another set of tanks so that we can get to 100 million oysters a year by 2024.
Other than being on like the Staten Island ferry, that's the only other time I've ever been on the water here in New York, and what a unique experience to have. I would say that it felt very close to home in kind of a funny way. I feel like we've done so much over the past year learning about bivalve mollusks that to all of a sudden arrive in New York City and then learn about how they're using them to literally filter and clean the water and improve the waterways and hopefully get them back to a really good state is, yeah, just something worth supporting. It was very cool. I loved it. I'm not fully processed. Can I interrupt your conversation?
Yes.
Okay, what did you think and what did you learn?
I love oysters. My gosh, who knew they could be more than just a delicious hors d'oeuvre? They're also helping to restore the New York Harbor to its former glory, cleaning the water, protecting us from storm surges. Who knew oysters could do so much?
What did you think about the tour today?
I loved seeing the oysters. I mean, the fact that you're able to take an animal, introduce it into the ecosystem, and actually improve that ecosystem, it's beautiful.
That's kind of like right up your alley.
100%.
It's like what you love most in life right now, right?
It's what I live for. It's why I wake up every day, yeah.
Exactly. What'd you think, Joe? Our private tour.
That was incredible. Talk about the VIP oyster experience.
Right? I feel pretty special at the moment, actually.
I'm like pretty inspired that they, like, it's so much about the students and education, like even from the very idea of creating this place.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, I wish I had something like that at my school growing up.
I know. I would have, I mean, I already became a biologist.
But I think I would have been a marine biologist had that happened.
This is going to inspire so many people to just pay more attention to nature around them. Like, how many people live in New York within a couple miles of this water?
Who have no idea.
Have no idea.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of thing that changes one mind at a time, million minds at a time, billion oysters at a time.
So there you go. If you come to New York City, then you can put this on your bucket list of things to see and do.
So cool.
Yeah. So that brings us to real time, because we are in Florida right now, which is where all of our boating adventures started. This is where we bought curiosity and we transitioned from RV life to boat life, which was a good transition for us.
But upsetting for some people, and they were, one, worried that we were gonna die. Like, you can't just buy a boat and sail around the world. What are you, crazy?
Surprise! You can.
Then other people were just angry that we weren't gonna be on the road anymore.
Yeah, doing kind of the full-time road
RV.
warrior lifestyle anymore. So, and now here we are yet again in a transitional time period where some of you are absolutely loving it. You're thriving on it the same as we are, and then
some of you are not,
which is okay. It's
a lot of people don't like change, but we definitely thrive on change.
Yes. Which is what we want to talk to you about, and that is what to expect from us over the next several weeks
on this channel. And the first one is we are meeting up with Victoria and Rico, two friends that run a channel called Naughty Styles, and they do super yacht tours.
So we are going to be stepping into their world for a day.
I'm actually really excited about it.
Yes, and then we are headed back to the Tuamotu, which we are so stoked about because it's freaking beautiful and
sharks.
And we're going to be
Sailing
moving aboard
on our very first ever HH. And it's not just any HH, it's an HH55 full carbon, and it has put on more miles than any other HH in the world.
And it is not the oldest HH. It's a fairly new boat, but the owners, Frank and Mary Grace, who you will soon meet, are really incredible sailors. They have kind of a similar story to how we got started and how they've ended up in this HH, and they have just been flying, and they just have so much experience.
They
and
are
especially
gonna school us on performance sailing. Plane. And I'm so excited. I bought a new action camera and this like chest strap thingy, so that way I can be out there and pulling the lines, and spray's coming over and we're going 20 knots.
We're only a tad bit excited about this whole adventure. So no pressure, Frank and Mary Grace.
And thank you for letting everyone come in. So
Yes.
it takes a very special person to allow all of us to come on their
into
boat.
their home and into their life and share all of that with us. So we're very excited about that. That is kind of what's coming up. We have other things in the pipeline, which we're also equally excited about, but we feel like we need to get through this first.
Definitely.
And then we'll kind of tell you about what will be next. But it's all sailing. It's loads of fun.
And if you thought the Billion Oyster Project was interesting, then we are going to enable the fundraiser button on YouTube, and it's really cool because any donation you give goes straight to them. YouTube doesn't take a hit. None of it comes to us.
Yep, it all just 100% of proceeds go directly to the organization. So
We'll also put a link if you don't want to hit the
if you just want to check it out and you want to learn, then we'll put a link to their website in the description box down below. And that's it. Yeah, so we will see you next week.
Clearly
and we will
very excited.
I think we're just happy to be out and about and doing things, and there's so many different things coming our way, and it's fun. Yeah.
Thanks,
so,
guys.
Hope you enjoyed that, and we will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us. Lots of love. Bye.